Hello and welcome, everyone. Today is the 17th of March, 2024. I'm with Michael online on Skype, and he has put together a script on Science is the New Religion, and we have Satan equals the snake, devil, dragon, deceiver. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Welcome, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. This is just the interpretation and the explanation of the Bible, but who reads the Bible these days? So that is the problem that we talked about last time, that people, as they will read a beast, they will literally see a beast, and they don't see it spiritually. And that's why I think it is just quite interesting, at least, to consider a possibility that they will come up with a trick in the last days. Speaking of a beast, the word dinosaur, Ken Hovind tells us, was invented by Sir Richard Owen in 1841. Before that time, they were known as the dragons.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah. Dinosaur actually is the root from Greek dinos, means terrible, and sauros means lizard. So now you can compare these two, and then you know what it's actually about. It's a terrible lizard. It's not quite far stretch from a dragon, I think. And a special dinosaur, quote unquote, is a Tyrannosaurus rex. Rex is the addition here. Rex, of course, means the king. Yeah, so the tyrant king, Tyrannosaurus rex, that would be, I think, that by far the most known so-called dinosaur. Comes from Greek tyrant. Tyrant plus saurus, yeah, so the tyrant lizard. And I don't think that we have to explain a possible biblical equivalent to a tyrant lizard in the Bible, do we? I don't think so. And this would be Jurassic Park. Jurassic because it resembles that old evolution with millions of years ago, this and that happened. And there was an ice age, and there was this and that and all the stuff. So this is a Tyrannosaurus rex. He eats flesh. He's a killer. He's a beast, actually. He's a killer. Okay. And I was reminded about the Tyrannosaurus rex, about Ezekiel 28.
Yes, verse 1. Should I read it?
1 and 2, yes.
1 and 2. The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, Thus saith the Lord God, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God. I sit in the seat of God, in the midst of the seas, yet thou art a man, and not God. Though thou set thine heart as the heart of God.
So we got another one here who just plays to be God. Sit in the seat of God, the king of Tyre, or the prince of Tyre on that regard. So the entire story here of Ezekiel 28 is usually being explained that until a certain verse it's been meant as an attribution to the tyrant prince/king of Tyre. And Tyre was a big important city in the ancient times.
I'll just start at verse 3. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and thine understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches, and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures. By thy wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches.
Yeah, and from verse 13 on, we see that it's been talking about the spirit behind it, because the prince or the king of Tyre or the ruler of Tyre never was in Eden before. So we know that verse from the satanic music agenda. And then afterwards, where we go further in that chapter here, we see that the king of Tyre, so a tyrant, I think that the word tyrant is just been quite fitting here, that he shall be a terror, so a terrorist. So therefore, if you think that the terrorists are not the real believers, but is of course the other way around. The terror has been described here is the spiritual background or the spirit behind the king and the prince of Tyre. So anybody who has just lifted up his heart and does not recognize God but thinks of himself as being a God is a terror in the eyes of the Lord. But of course this word throws everything in the opposition 180 degrees apart and thinks that the real believers are the terror, which they aren't. Getting back from the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which means the tyrant king, yeah, Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then you got the terror in the chapter 28, and you got the Prince of Tyrus. So together I thought it would be quite fitting to say that it's the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So let's move on for the so-called dinosaur. This is a quick picture here from the American Dictionary. Even in 1891, Kent Hovind says the word dinosaur was still not in the American Dictionary. Yeah, Dinotherium, Greek, means terrible beast, a gigantic herbivorous aquatic animal 15-18 feet long, now extinct. Interesting, huh? Dinotherium. A gigantic herbivorous, so not a carnivore but a herbivore, so eats plants. Aquatic animal, so a sea animal, 15-18 feet long, now extinct. So dinosaur meets terrible lizard. Hi, Mr. Lizard. If you then compare, would make a Bible study about then what dragons are been depicted as a kind of a symbol for, of course, Satan, the devil, and all the stuff. You can also see that in Deuteronomy 32, verse 33, it's been called, quote-unquote, their wine is the poison of dragons. So dragons are always negative in the Bible, always. And you can't imagine what happened before the flood, obviously, because if the Bible does not speak about it, there is nothing else left than the mouth-to-mouth summation and the tales of the Bible. So, but here you see symbols of lions and dragons on the old walls of Babylon. And that's, of course, always the case. And you see that when you depict dragons as being fearful animals, then you see that it's just the Bible says it's equal. In the Revelation 12:9, it speaks of the dragon and the serpent, the dragon, the serpent, the devil, and Satan. You see that all is the same. Yeah, all is the same, not maybe in apparition, so in size, but from the same root, from the same offspring, from the same spirit. So it's all satanic. It's all just a depiction of an animal which tries to kill or at least deceive people. And if you deceive people, you could also say that they kill their prey spiritually. So Kent Hovind thinks that dinosaurs or dragons have lived among people in the ancient times or before the flood. I can't back that up. I don't know. Kent tells us, and I don't know because I did not read it and I cannot double check it. He says that Alexander the Great reported that when he conquered parts of what is now India in 326 before Christ, his soldiers were scared by the great dragons that lived in caves. The question is, how do you define a dragon? You see that when dinosaur means a terrible lizard, it can have any shape. Yeah, you see that maybe it is not the real dragon which can fly, but a gigantic animal. Although you have to keep in mind, you have to be sure that Alexander or the scribes of Alexander the Great would tell the truth. That's the first big problem. The second problem is it is after the flood. Okay, but we just collect here information. Yeah, maybe that's also relative to a giraffe. I don't know. He said that Leviathan is probably a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Yeah, here's a size comparison. And of course, you should not have any images and idols which you worship, and the majority of people, they worship any images and idols, be it a golden calf, be it a leader from a state, be it a pope, or be it just an animal, or what else. You see, all these people are just worshipping anything else but the Almighty God. So they are just violating the second commandments. It's interesting if you go into a certain part of the book. You should take the Bible at first glance, you should take it literally. If there is not from Jesus Christ, for example, is there not an allegory, Brett? Yeah, so if Jesus Christ is talking to his disciples or to the general audience, he often just takes a parable or just an example for something. Then you know it is not been taken or been meant literally. But usually we have to take the Bible literally.
Yeah, here's the explanation of what you just said. Matthew 13, verses 2 and 3. If you want to go there. Oh, you don't have to. I could just read it here, too.
13, huh?
Yeah, 13, 2 and 3. And great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, the sower went forth. Hold on. Let's see. Many things. It's Matthew 13:13. I'm sorry, but basically it's the whole chapter 13. You can study it, but I'll just read Matthew 13:13 if that's okay, Michael. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because they seeing not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. So you don't have eyes to see nor ears to hear, basically.
They can only see and hear anything related to the flesh, but not they cannot receive the Holy Spirit. Yeah. So they cannot listen to Jesus. They don't understand it. It's like Pontius Pilate, who said, "What is truth?"
Right. Exactly.
The truth stands right in front of him. He said, "What is truth?" Yeah, so that is literally blind.
Sure.
Or blindness. Huh? The most interesting book regarding these dragons is not necessarily Revelation, because in Revelation you could argue, oh, Michael, this is just a vision that John was given, and it's not been taken literally, but an allegory, a vision. But there's another book in the Bible, it's called the Book of Job. And in the Book of Job, it has been said or been described that there is an animal which has fire leaping out of him. Yeah, this is the Book of Job and not the Book of Revelation. And Kent Hovind rightfully questions, is this passage describing a real fire-breathing dragon, or is it a symbolic of Satan? Yeah, that's your choice to decide what's what. Kent points further out. He says, what chemical is flammable with water? The alkali metals such as sodium, potassium and lithium react with water to produce heat and inflammable hydrogen gas, which can ignite or combine explosively with atmospheric oxygen. Water-sensitive chemicals are materials which react violently with water to produce heat and flammable or toxic gas. And there are some animals, even today, who can eject some poison and eject some fluids, for example, beetle juice. It's called the bombardier beetle. And citing Kent Hovind here, he says, 4 reasons why I believe there were fire-breathing dragons. First one, the Bible says there was one. Second, there are hundreds of legends about them. Third, it is chemically possible. And 4, some dinosaurs had strange compartments in their heads. The big surprise was the finding of a narrow, delicate, largely hollow crest on its head. While other dinosaurs have had similar features, this one was unusually large and elaborate for two-legged meat-eater, Clark and co-authors wrote. Nobody knows its purpose, but you can assume that there is something which is then been used to hunt or kill prey. I guess. If you think these are meat-eaters. And you don't have to follow his route, because we will go into that chapter and that book soon. Kant means high IQ people often think they can explain the world without God, and rich people often get a snooty attitude they don't need God because they have money as a replacement, theology or religion, or science then, in that regard. So, he's just openly praying. That's what I would never do on television. So getting back to Revelation 12, when there was a wonder in heaven, so that is in a spiritual realm as far as I'm concerned, Brett.
Right, spiritual realm. Revelation 12, should I read this whole?
No, we don't have to read it because we have read that before. The thing is that the Bible here depicts a great red dragon, but it's depicting it in heaven. And later, that same chapter, the same chapter here tells us that the great dragon, that the great dragon was cast out into the earth. In the earth, not onto the earth, so on top of the earth, whatever shape you would like, but into the earth. So that means rabush, like flight number, what was it, in Pennsylvania, which hit the ground and was just disappearing. I'd say.
I forget the name too.
93,
93.
Thelema, the number of Thelema, Aleister Crowley.
Oh.
Yeah. Is there any better picture? Yeah, so into the earth. Not on top, into the earth. And that's what we see on that picture that we have talked about last time, which I haven't got now. Great. Michael, you did. I will insert it here. He was cast into the earth. So in the earth. So this is the mark. In the earth. He was cast into the earth. And
his angels were cast out with him. That's correct.
And his angels were cast out with him. Villa della Estrella, so the city of the angels, around the Antarctica. And it was the archangel Michael who was fighting with the dragon, which you see here in Hamburg in the church. So that's the Draco constellation. In the north, Draco is a constellation of the far northern sky. Its name is Latin for dragon. The north pole of the ecliptic is in Draco. That's where he wanted to be.
Yeah, the side of the north, yeah.
I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. Yeah, that's the sign of Draco.
Yes.
Yeah. With the long tail. So we're talking about that so-called sea beast here at this moment. And numerous people have numerous explanations about it. They, for example, claim the sea beast of Revelation 13 is fulfilled by the false priest, white popes of Rome, who pretend to represent Christ but are against Christ. They are called the beast. The earth beast of Revelation 13 is fulfilled by the false priests, black popes of Rome. They are called the false prophet, and I have much against this argument. Once again, we all commonly can agree on the fact that Satan has been depicted as a dragon, so it is not naturally necessary for him to then appear like a dragon. He's a spirit, nevertheless. But as a synonym and as a symbol, it might be that there were dragons around And it even might be that the old shape of the serpent would be a dragon, so that he was not crawling on the belly. That would my lucky guess at the moment, Brett. So in Revelation 13, it's also said that they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. So the dragon is not the Pope or the papacy. The dragon still is a spiritual animal. We are talking here now in Revelation 13 about a spiritual war and about a spiritual animal. But the book of Job, I am not quite sure that it talks about a spiritual thing. And I will show you why. Soon. Quite soon. Job 41. It's about an animal where God speaks to Job directly. It's about an animal. It's called Leviathan.
Or Leviathan.
Leviathan, yes. And he depicts here Leviathan as a gigantic, powerful beast that no one can mess with. So therefore, the questions that God addresses to Job are hypothetical or rhetoric questions, actually, where Job cannot answer because the answer is quite clear from the question only. Can thou draw out Leviathan with an hook? So I now have to switch.
Ah, yeah, interesting. It says here his scales are his pride, shut up together as with a closed seal. One is near to another, that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together. They cannot be sundered by his, what is that, Nesings? Or
yeah.
Nessings? Nessings? A light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils go smoke, as out of seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindle coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. His neck remaineth strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him.
Yeah, now, what kind of an animal would you depict then? Who's got smoke coming out of the nostrils, a flame goeth out of his mouth.
It's just really wicked.
Yeah, really wicked.
And then, yeah, but look, his sorrow is turned into joy before him. So to him, it's joy.
Yeah, sure, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite, yes.
The flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. His heart is as firm as stone. Yea, as hard as a piece of nether millstone.
Yes.
When he raiseth up, what does it say? When he raiseth up himself, the mighty are afraid. By reason of breaking, they purify themselves. Breakings, excuse me, yes. By reason of breakings, they purify themselves. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteemeth iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of a spear. Sharp stones are under him. He spreadeth sharp pointed things upon the mire. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. He maketh a path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. And I think that means old.
Yeah, but you see,
hoary is old.
The deep to boil like a pot, that we are talking about here of the sea, obviously.
Yeah, okay.
So if anybody would take a lucky guess about the beast of Revelation, about the beast out of the sea, I would suggest that it's very close to the depiction of Leviathan in the book of Job, chapter 41.
Yes.
That's
yes.
And then you are really close to Revelation 12, of course, like the red dragon,
Yes.
Satan, serpent, devil. What else? So the only question is, does this creature exist? And then you would have to combine that question with the depiction, the markings on the earth, which you saw before, quite nearby the Antarctica. Yeah, so is this passage describing a real fire-breathing dragon, or is it symbolic of Satan? And you see, if you take this into consideration, then please look how gigantic that is. This is not a normal animal. Yeah, this is maybe a hint from God that the earth has something to do with the dragon, and the Revelation depicts that the dragon was cast out into the earth. At least you can take this as a hint that nobody on this earth, be it a man or an animal, can mess with him. Because from the pure size that God here or anybody else left a mark, let's put it this way, left a mark. I don't know if that is really existing, you see? But the Bible speaks of into the earth. So considering the size, nobody can mess with him. And that is also the depiction here, or the message, I guess, from Job chapter 41. Because he says that nobody can mess with him. Out of his nostrils goes smoke, his breath kindled coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. By his sneezings a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. So the reference to the morning again. And he says that nobody can bear with him. Yeah, nobody can bear with him, because God himself says to Job, then can thou draw out Leviathan with an hook? Yes, you see, when he's just speaking of a hook, that means to draw him out of something. And that something, because that chapter 41 later depicts the sea, can only be the sea. So it must be a sea beast. Obviously. Go back to verse 21 and the following. Yeah, he maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot.
Reminds me of lava under the sea.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have considered this too, but not in this session. But you're quite right. You see that we cannot know if it has been meant as an explanation to Job. But if God speaks about it, then I think we should consider at least the possibility that this is real. I'm not saying that it is now real at this moment, but at the time when Job has lived, Job did not ask Almighty God, please explain me what is a Leviathan. So this entire description here in Job 41 speaks in the last word or last verses. I think you got a confirmation then.
Yeah, we read up all the way to 32. So here's the last of it.
Yeah.
Upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride.
That should be quite obvious. The children of disobedience are the children of the children who are following Isaiah 14. Lucifer - Satan. I don't see any other solution to this. A king of...
Yeah, whether they know it or not. That's right, Mike.
Yes. So then let's move on. You see,
oh, wow, children of pride.
Yeah.
Very good, Michael.
Yeah. Where is it? There is a book called Leviathan, or the Matter, Form and Power of a Commonwealth, Ecclesiastical and Civil, commonly referred as only Leviathan, a book by Thomas Hobbes in the 16th, 17th century. Its name derives from the biblical Leviathan. It is just a work about the social contract theory. And are we into socialism worldwide? In that book, a giant crowned figure is seen emerging from the landscape, clutching a sword and a crochet beneath a quote from the book of Job, non est potestas super terram que comparator ei. There is no power on earth to be compared to him. Job 41:24. Interesting, huh? Interesting. Yes. And this is a book which is not a biblical book. This is just a documentary here. It's a treatise on politics with an account of human nature, so quote unquote. And this is just only yet now a byproduct here. However, the author Hobbes states there is a summum malum, or the greatest evil. This is the fear of violent death. A political community can be oriented around this fear. And don't we see that on that picture which I have inserted here, that a political community can be steered and be controlled through fear mongering? It's like a scene from a movie, but people take it for real. In his book Leviathan, the author Hobbes explicitly states that the sovereign has authority to assert power over matters of faith and doctrine, and that if he does not do so, he invites discord. Discord means an unfriendly feeling, an ill will, a dissension. Not by accident here, in a children's television show My Little Pony, one of the main villains is called Discord, and obviously it's a dragon with only one teeth. And discord is been known from music, Brett, right?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah. Of course.
Yeah, when something does not fit in.
Well, when something is discordant in music, it sounds bad.
Yes.
You just hear it. Oh, it's tension.
Yes.
It's tension. There's a disagreement between frequencies. Let's put it that way.
So that is that book. So before we go into this, I go into the explanation of Leviathan from a secular standpoint. Late 14th century, a sea monster, sea serpent, sometimes regarded as a form of Satan, from late Latin Leviathan, from Hebrew Leviathan, means a dragon, a serpent, a huge sea animal. And will we rely on this? I don't think so. I think we ask also Esau. Later it's been related to Hebrew, wrath, or Arabic, to bend or to twist, so you see a twisted animal. Or of powerful persons or things, from 1600s, later on. An aquatic animal mentioned in the Old Testament. It is described in Job 41 apparently as a crocodile, which is untrue. Crocodile does not breathe fire. In Isaiah 27:1, it is called a piercing and a crooked servant. So thanks very much. So that means that we will also go to the book of Isaiah. That was, if I remember correctly, 27. So we got another confirmation, or an addition actually, additional information about it. So 27.
Interesting. Right from verse 1. Yeah? Should I read? In that day the Lord with his sore and great strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea.
Ask yourself, is that literally or is it an allegory? And I think that everybody can study the Bible on its own.
Yeah, right.
But the Lord does not say that Leviathan is a crocodile. It's a dragon that is in the sea. And I think that I can't get it any more closer. The dragon which is in the sea, I can't get more closer to this, actually, than this picture here, once again. You see, the mythological dragon has appeared in any culture around this earth, however it may be. Long time ago. When we speak about the Babylonians, it was close to 5,000 years ago. There were no movies there and smartphones. So how came they up with the idea of a dragon in several cultures? You can, of course, you can have the standpoint that you say, okay, before the dividing of the earth, Peleg, during the times of Peleg in Genesis 10, I think it was, Genesis 10, before the Tower of Babel in 11, so it must be 10, that it was a common mythological animal, and so therefore it is on every continent today. Okay, I grant you this, but that does not explain why it has been happened 5,000 years ago, and why it has been venerated, for example, in China. So I made a comparison here that when you look upon these movie dragons, which they depict nowadays, they are just getting bigger and bigger in size. From 100 feet to 150 feet, 200 feet, from Transformers, Game of Thrones, Drogon, House of the Dragon, How to Train Your Dragon. This is a child movie. Yeah? 360 feet, The Red Death, Smaug from The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. 500 feet, 600 feet, 1,000 feet, King Ghidorah from Godzilla, King of the Monsters, with 3 heads. We are improving, huh? Slowly improving. Yamato, 1,000 feet, with several horns. Shall we count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Shall we count? Maybe I've forgotten something? Any crowns anywhere? To Godzilla, the Planet Eater, 65,000 feet. And the biggest one is Dragon Balls. The length is infinity. And that's interesting, because infinity is a symbol for what? Because then it is not a material thing anymore, because infinity means it is just infinite, like God. It is godlike. So Shenron from Dragon Balls would be my number one contender for the title of depiction of Satan, because it's just a spirit then, when its length is infinite. And this is just a measly depiction here of YouTube games and movies. But
well, it's like the depiction of the bottomless pit in the Bible. It's infinite.
Mm-hmm.
It never ends.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever had that before, Michael, where you wake up from a dream where you just start falling and falling and falling, and you never, ever hit the bottom.
No, it does not appear, because every time I wake up, I'm in the same bed.
Right.
Just kidding. No. I have not had that dream yet.
Oh, I have had that many times.
Mm.
But we're all different, Michael. We all have different experiences.
So when your current science tells you that they have unveiled a 240 million year old dragon fossil, that can only mean one thing: that they believe that dragons exist, right? So it is not important now if they were real or not. The first thing is that the Bible depicts Leviathan as a crooked sea serpent, and dragons usually fly, I guess, but it's depicted as a sea dragon. But that sea dragon can spit fire and have smoke out of his nostrils for unknown reasons, and can boil up the deep. And what it also depicts is that this so-called dragon is what science wants you to believe once existed 240 million years ago. So that means that if you read all this so-called news, that happens for a purpose. I guess the entire dinosaur thing, which means the terrible lizard, happens for a purpose. Maybe to get the people ready that I do not know. Something will happen, like a movie. Like a movie. So I typed in Antarctica and dragon, because I was curious to find if anybody else came up with a similar idea than me. And this is what I found. They name the thin ice, or the shape of the ice around the Antarctica, dragon skin ice. I said, okay, interesting. It's specifically around the Antarctica. I thought, okay, that is quite fitting, when you know the view from above. Dragon skin ice found in Antarctica. Dragon skin ice and katabatic storms. China's polar icebreaker Snow Dragon 2 set sail for the 38, so 11, Antarctica expedition. Snow Dragon. Antarctica, Snow Dragon, dragon skin. Oh yeah. My. Let's have a look at The Secret Doctrine by Helena Petrova Blavatsky, most likely a Russian agent and the founder of the theosophic, one of the theosophic movements then. A dragon can be found in numerous accounts. He said dragon devils of Demirville, dragon garb, dragon logos, dragon serpent oracle, python, dragon slayer, dragon temple sacred to the dragon, druids, dragons, everywhere. And the next one could be a big surprise for somebody, or maybe to many of the people. At least I found quite interesting, because this is now an excerpt from a book, German Jesuit, called Athanasius Kircher. Kircher's Dragon. In that book here from Petrova Blavatsky, she writes, "It does not follow that because the occultists believe in and defend ancient wisdom and science, even though winged saurians are called flying camels in a translation of the Zohar, so in the Jewish mythology, we therefore as readily believe in all the stories which the Middle Ages give us of such dragons. Pterodactyls and Plesiosauri cease to exist."
Periodicals and yes.
Thank you. And Plesiosauri cease to exist with the bulk of the third race. You see, she's into racism. When therefore we are gravely asked by Roman Catholic writers to credit Christopher Scherer's and Father Kircher, so this is Athanasius Kircher, Jesuits, cock and bull stories of their having seen with their own eyes living fury and flying dragons, respectively in 1619 and 1669, we may be allowed to regard their assertions as either dreams or fibs. Fictions or what. Not shall we regard otherwise than as a poetic license the story told of Petrarch, who, while following one day his Laura in the woods and passing near a cave, is credited with having found a dragon, whom he forthwith stabbed with his dagger and killed, thus preventing the monster from devouring the lady of his heart. We would willingly believe that the story had Petrarch lived in the days of Atlantis, and she believes in the Atlantic northern race and all the stuff, when such an antediluvian monsters may still have existed. We deny their existence in our present era. The sea serpent is one thing, the dragon quite another. The former is denied by the majority because it lives in the very deeps of the ocean, is very scarce, and rises to the surface only when compelled perhaps by hunger. So what I make out of it is, in summary, pushing all the way all the garbage here in Atlantis, the summary is, the dragon is still a spiritual animal in the Bible depicted in Revelation 12, okay? We can agree on this. But the Lord himself in Isaiah depicts Leviathan as a crooked serpent. And when you combine it with then the depiction of Job 41, then that is just boiled the waters in the sea and all that, then it's a sea serpent who lives in the sea. And is so gigantic and so powerful that nobody can mess with him and nobody can draw him out of the sea with a hook. That's what he says to Job in the first line of the chapter. So then let's sort out that the dragon is a spiritual animal and the Leviathan or the sea serpent is quite another thing which lives in the sea, because you see that when dragons have wings, they not usually do need to go under the water, right? Yeah, so they have wings to fly and not to swim. Although, some animals, they have, oh, come on, help me in English now, Schwimmhäute, they have a special skin to swim between their fingers. What's it called in English?
It's like a web or what is that? You mean like a skin between the fingers,
Yes,
right?
yes.
What is that called? Web feet or
Yeah. Zwemfliesen
Web
in Niederländisch, yeah. No,
it's
English.
a tough one.
Web feet, yeah.
I
Web
forget.
feet, yeah. Web feet, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. I would make a distinction between it. Yeah, I would take the distinction and say, again, considering the Bible and the serpent who beguiled Eve, then I say the serpent or the sea serpent here, a crooked serpent, may be the most powerful animal that inherits the sea, right? That's why it is the beast out of the sea in Revelation 12. Revelation 13, huh? Now I have to be very careful.
Sure. Yeah, right. Verse 1, actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
but
very close to 12.
Don't
yeah.
mix it up now. You see that in 12 we got the dragon, but in 13 we got the sea beast. Let's look it up here. So in 12 is the dragon, sure, but 13:1 comes up with the beast. A beast rise out of the sea. So this is not the dragon. This is the sea beast. A beast rise out of the sea. And we have learned in Isaiah chapter 27 that Leviathan is a piercing serpent. That Leviathan is a piercing serpent and a crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Now, even me, I'm getting confused a little bit here.
Oh, for sure.
Let's ask Esau. Yeah, when you once start with that, you see that it's just... Nobody talks about... some people talk about it, yes, I have to admit, but... So, the beast described in Revelation 13 has been called Theron, a dangerous animal, venomous, wild beast. Therion.
Oh,
so, let's look it up, where we got this Greek word in the Bible. It's the depiction of the sea beast. So here you got in Acts, you got a wild beast, beast. So until now, I don't see any depiction of Satan or a dragon, right? I see simply beast or wild beast. Beast everywhere. So let's step back to Revelation 12. Must be verse 3 then. The woman and the dragon. The dragon is being depicted as Drakon, so not Theron. Okay, so there's a distinction between them. And now we go to, I guess, Therion. So now we have to go back to Hebrew or Aramaic in the Old Testament and go to Isaiah 27. Isaiah 27. It's a given name. Leviathan is a wretched animal that is a serpent, especially the crocodile, or is some other large sea monster. Figuratively, the constellation of the dragon, as also as a symbol of Babylon. Leviathan mourning, the piercing serpent. Piercing serpent. The piercing serpent. Fugitive, that is the serpent as fleeing, and the constellation by that name, crooked, noble, piercing. Piercing serpent, Nashash, yeah, there you go, yeah. So Nashash, the same as in the Garden of Eden, Genesis chapter 3. Even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, now it's crooked, and he shall slay the dragon. Of course, it's not Drakon. It's not Greek now. It's Hebrew. A marine or land monster that is sea serpent or jackal. Dragon, sea monster, serpent, whale. And now you got everything around. You will have now numerous explanations of it. Because I know also some people say that, oh yeah, you only have to go to Genesis chapter 1 when God created the first beasts. And these were the beasts of the sea and the fowls in the air, which is, of course, correct. Yeah, that was on the 5th day, if I remember correctly. So the fourth day, the fifth day. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales. Now look at the explanation of whales, please. Brad, can you read it?
Okay. The second form used in Ezra 29:3, intensive, from the same as H8565, a marine or land monster, that is, a sea serpent or jackal, dragon, sea monster, serpent, whale.
Yes. And I find myself unable to differentiate between all these Hebrew explanations and Greek names, theron and all the stuff. I would say, at least to sum it up, that these sea beasts are the oldest, because these were the beasts who were first created from in the line of all living beings, right?
Mm.
So when God created great whales, I think that is about the size then. So this is a really delicate subject. I'm not about to solve it. I find myself not to be able to solve that dilemma at this moment.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this looks really interesting, though. Very interesting.
But what I would say is that the mentioning of Leviathan, both in Job and the book of Isaiah, means that Leviathan is a special animal because it has a name.
Mm-hmm.
It is not.
It's an ancient animal.
Yeah, it's not only a whale or a fish or a giant fish like Jonah, who was 3 days and nights in the belly of a fish or so. It is or of a whale. Yeah, you see that when I think about these. The depiction of, is it Jonah? Huh? Jonah, I think it is called.
Jonah, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, he speaks specific of a whale then. He does not speak about a sea serpent or a monster or Leviathan or a serpent or what else. It's been depicted as a whale. And now here they use the same term, whale. Yeah, we can look up, maybe we find Jonah here somewhere. Exodus, Job. Yeah, you see here the same problem in Job 30:29, the same explanation. And now the translation is not whale anymore, but dragon. But the depiction in Job 41 is explicitly something which boils the sea and which is breathing smoke out of his nostrils and having a fiery breath. It does not remind me of a whale, actually. Yeah, it's really interesting. You see, it's a really interesting stuff. That when you start it, you see that you've been busy for a long time, I guess. And I would not follow anybody. I can tell you why. Because even the King James Bible can have its bad day. So you would have to ask God directly, God, what is right and what is the truth and what is the lie? So what has been meant? And even only God can reveal everything. And He knows everything and He knows the truth. And Jesus Christ is the truth. So either it has been revealed or it has not been revealed for a certain purpose. But the important stuff that I get off this article of Athanasius Kircher Dragon is that he, as a Jesuit, believes in a physical dragon, and that is for me the essence of that article. When Blavatsky talks about it, and I will have to look it up where Athanasius Kircher mentions his dragon, then it is interesting that a German Jesuit of the 17th century is talking about a physical dragon in the 17th century. We are not talking about Alexander the Great, 3rd century before Christ. And we are not talking about millions of years ago and 240 millions of years ago. We're talking about the 17th century. And this really keeps me thinking. That means, in the footnotes here, it means the ultramontane writers accept the whole series of draconian stories, so Draco, dragon, given by Father Kircher in his Oedipus Aegyptiacus,
Did you say the ultramontane writers?
Yeah.
Wow, we're really in deep into the enemy territory
Deep in
here.
trouble here. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the footnote here. I can enhance it a bit so that
Wow, please do. Yes.
anybody can read it. Yeah, so the
It's
ultramontane writers accept the whole series of draconian stories given by Father Kircher in his Oedipus Aegyptiacus, the Genesi Draconum, quite seriously. According to that Jesuit, he himself saw a dragon which was killed in 1669 by a Roman peasant, as the director of the Museo Barberini sent it to him to take the beast's likeness, which Father Kircher did and had it published in one of his own folios. After this, he received a letter from Christopher Scherer, prefect of the canton of Soleure, Switzerland, in which that official certifies to his having seen himself with his own eyes one fiery summer night in 1619 a living dragon. Having remained on his balcony to contemplate the perfect purity of the firmament, he writes, I saw a fiery shiny dragon rise from one of the caves of Mount Pilatus and directing himself rapidly towards Fluelen, to the other end of the lake. Enormous in size, his tail was still longer and his neck stretched out. His head and jaws were those of a serpent. In flying, he emitted on his way numerous sparks. I thought at first I was seeing a meteor, but soon, looking more attentively, I was convinced by his flight and the conformation of his body that I saw a veritable dragon. I am happy to be thus able to enlighten your reverence on the very real existence of those animals. In dreams, the writer ought to have added long past ages. As a convincing proof of the reality of the fact, a Roman Catholic refers the reader to the picture of the incident painted by Simon de Sienne, a friend of the poet, of the portal of the church Notre Dame du Don at Avignon, notwithstanding the prohibition of the sovereign pontiff who, quote-unquote, would not allow this triumph of love to be enthroned in the holy place, and adds, quote, time has injured the work of art but has not weakened its tradition. The Mirville dragon devils of our era seem to have no luck, as they disappear most mysteriously from the museums where they are said to have been. This the dragon embalmed by Ulysses Aldovandus and presented to the Musée du Sommet either in Naples or Bologna, was there still in 1700 but is there no more. So from this article here, from that footnote, you can see that there was a remark of the Jesuit Athanasius Kircher. And what's interesting is that he says here, he has seen it himself with his open eyes one fiery summer night, a living dragon, having remained in the balcony to contemplate the perfect purity of the firmament. Interesting, huh? I would not say that he saw his and he could touch it. I would say that is while contemplation, this is spiritual exercise. At least that's
correct. Yes.
At least
correct.
that's one possibility.
Yeah, right.
But to me, the most important thing is that he, as a Jesuit, has been issued the fact that he saw himself a living dragon. So that, in my humble opinion, means that at least in the 17th century, at least one Jesuit tried to convince other people of the existence of real dragons. And of course, Mrs. Blavatsky believes of a dragon people and all the stuff. You see that she believes other things. But important is that all the people try to convince other people that dragons have lived. You see.
Well, this is kind of the problem, Michael, if you don't mind me commenting, that you're actually trying to depict a physical form of a spiritual entity.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's so hard to describe or define unless you have spiritual contact with this entity. So maybe, is it possible, I know from my experiences, I don't know about yours, Michael, that you have manifestations in the spiritual realm that appear as physical form. Let's put it this way.
He said he saw it with his own eyes. But
Okay.
he said he saw it with his own eyes during a contemplation. And
There you go.
also, according to that footnote, I would say that he was the only one who saw it.
Okay, so this gets really tough, and I think it's very, very difficult for people that have not had spiritual experiences of this kind ever in their life. I, for one, have not the average guy, Michael. Not the average guy at all. I've had some spiritual experiences.
Okay.
And yes.
Okay, but you see that you don't have to explain it to me, because I know many things that
Exactly.
happened.
I know that already.
But
we've talked about this already.
compare this to the Mary apparitions.
Ah.
You see, on the one hand, you have a dragon apparition at the Jesuit Athanasiuskirche, most likely while he was contemplating spiritual exercises of the Jesuits, getting in touch with evil spirits, of course. And on the other hand, you got several people, at least 3 children, in Fatima, and other people who saw a dancing light and what else, and they think and they imagine that would be the Mother Mary in the heaven, which cannot be, because she's not in heaven. So, these spiritual forces, they can appear as if.
Absolutely.
So my idea now is, if they can put out, or if these evil spirits can put out real question, quote unquote, real, so in the reality of the minds of the people that Mary appears, then the most logical consequence is they can also appear as a dragon. Remember the statue of Mary, of Our Lady of Quito.
That's right. That's right.
According to the depiction of Helena Petrova Blavatsky, it happened in the year 1619 already. At least in the imagination of one Jesuit. But think of a little bit further. Think of the meditation room of the United Nations. Think of yoga. Think of meditation, contemplation, and all the stuff, and Luciferian worship and all the stuff. So when numerous amount of people are just contemplating, the evil forces are very tempted to show themselves off. You see, the Pope is promoting Mary worship and officially believes that Mary apparitions, and have the only time when they have, or 2 times only, when they have claimed divine authority, 1870.
Oh, yeah.
Infallibility.
Pope Pius IX.
Infallibility.
Mm-hmm.
At 1950, about the ascension of the Mother Mary into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you combine these
Pope
two...
Pius the 12th. Yeah, from the 9th to the 12th, yes.
So these 2 points must be of utmost importance for the papacy, so that you do not question authority, do not question the papacy. And the second is that Mary is in heaven. So these 2 things must be of utmost importance, and that can only lead to a Mary apparition. If the Jesuit Athanasiuskirche describes he has seen while contemplating a dragon, a real living dragon, then imagine what will appear if 1 million people would be there on the command of the Pope, be praying in Fatima on their knees. Mother Mary, please pray for me, please appear. And maybe that happens in Ecuador or somewhere else. And out of a sudden Mary appears with a chain in her hand, clothed with the sun and a crown of 12 stars around her head, and with a dragon under her feet.
On top of a globe.
Yeah, can you imagine what's happening then in the world? Everybody would worship Mary instead of Jesus. because they have seen it, like the Jesuit Athanasius Kircher, with their own eyes. And who knows if these 2019-2020 action pharmakeia has maybe a positive effect on contemplating, because maybe there is something in it which blocks some areas or just enhances something. I don't know. And you see that.
Well, one thing's for sure, when you say it's gene therapy, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you see.
And then they deny it after they say it. Oh no, we never said that.
I think we should at least in that part of
signs and wonders. Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, as you told the right thing even in the first sentence in the beginning of the session when you said that we are just fighting spiritual entities.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, powers in high places. The king of the prince of the power of the air. So Satan.
Yes, exactly.
So let's face it. If Kircher, the Jesuit, talks about a real dragon which he saw while contemplating, let's draw a short line between the dragon and the sea serpent. So let's put it this way. I think the best thing that we can come up with is to depict Satan as a dragon when he is in a spiritual form. Because it is this what the Bible does depict Satan as if in the Revelation 12. But when we are talking about a sea beast, a beast out of the sea, or a leviathan on that regard, we're talking about a sea serpent, a crooked serpent. We talk about something which cannot be tamed. So we talk about maybe one real existing animal, which God, of course, nobody else is there, and He is Almighty, has created in the first place for whatever reason. Maybe it's the reason that any animal should fear it, too. Maybe. That was an idea which came to me lately. Yeah, because...
Oh, yeah. I think that's true. Animals, from testimony of close friends of mine, actually, animals are very sensitive to these things as well. They see them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting you bring that up.
Yes, and I think that is really the case, that we have to draw the line between the dragon and the sea serpent, because otherwise we would mix everything around. So let's have it this way. The dragon has been depicted as Satan in a spiritual realm. But the Revelation 12 talks about that the serpent and the dragon are identical, which makes the case much more worse. But let's focus on the sea beast, because then you will see in a later session would make much more sense. If we concentrate on the sea beast, maybe it's the Leviathan. At least it is a beast that man cannot tame, and that has no other enemy. And for whatever reason, it can put out fire and smoke. Okay, so let's better talk about a sea monster, about a sea serpent, instead of a dragon, because otherwise I think we get totally mixed up here. Okay, let's move on then. What I really found interesting is that at this moment, at least if you believe Wikipedia and YouTube, China is about to create dragon clones. At least that's what you like to, or what you should believe. You see, once again, a dinosaur means a terrible lizard. There are some species at least left who can take into consideration what the end shall be. But I'm not surprised that China is the forerunner on this entire development, of course, because they are just worshipping the dragon. Yeah, and even Chinese scientists create dragon clones, even they are quoting the Bible with Job 41. Yeah.
Huh. What?
Mm. They want to have dragon rule the entire earth. These are all Satanists, all these scientists, you see that.
This is reminding me of Francis Xavier again.
Yeah,
All of a sudden.
Because he went to China.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, hey, this is the fruit of his work, huh?
Mm-hmm.
They're reading the script straight from the Bible. They're telling you this is an admission.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Wicked.
Yeah, you see, that is Job 41. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's smoke and flame.
Post C19 world, Michael.
Yeah. King of all the children of pride. This can only be a depiction that he's in a satanic spirit, of course. Yeah, so that's the same, that Alexander allegedly saw dragons. But you see that the problem is the definition. You see that if you saw a lizard, and maybe the lizard has also something to eject, maybe you then see a 6-foot lizard or so as a dragon. You see that, who knows? You see that all these...
that painting of Alexander there looks like he has a dragon on his head.
Yeah, but you see that you can fake everything because they are the scribes and Pharisees. Yeah, so they are the scribes.
Exactly. Yeah. But they're just following their master.
We have to stick to the Bible to find out what's really relevant in the last days. Yeah, so I don't think it's a crocodile. A crocodile is not a sea serpent. Okay, it's a little bit moving left and right, but no, it's not a sea serpent. No, to me it's not. To me it's not. You see, there are many people who are just claiming about dragons, but you see that the problem is the definition of a dragon. Yeah, to me a dragon is a flying serpent.
Okay. Yep. Understood.
Yeah, so that means a serpent with wings. Sure, of course, otherwise he won't fly. Yes, there are also flying fishes, but they do not move that much and that high. They are just jumping like a kangaroo over the water.
So again, when we go back to Genesis in the beginning,
yes,
where the serpent was cursed to dust, eat dust. Could it be a dragon beforehand?
It is very close. It is very close.
I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. I don't know.
You see, you can also see it the other way around. If Revelation 12 depicts it as that the dragon has been cast out into the earth. And God says, when men have been created and have then eaten from the forbidden fruit, and then says to the serpent that now you are just cursed and you shall eat dust, you shall crawl on your belly and eat dust the rest of your life. Then it's the same, that he's bound to the earth. Yeah, so eat dust out of the earth. He does not fly anymore, huh? So that would be a big possibility that these are events who are just occurring, maybe also simultaneously. Maybe it has been, you see that as in heaven as on earth.
Sure.
Thou will be done.
Yes. Yeah, that's part of the Lord's Prayer. Yes.
So I cannot estimate it just only from the Bible. I can only say that the closest I would say what a dragon is a serpent with wings, or a serpent who has the ability to fly, or at least to move a bit. Like a fowl or what else. Yeah, but you see that I have never seen a dragon in my real life. Although I know, and that this is a thing which is not in the script here, I know that I have read somewhere that the explorer Marco Polo, and the question is, how valid is that information and how independent is he and who has written it and who has seen it? He reports that he came back from an exploration in China in the 16th century and he saw dragons in China. Once again, the problem is, what is your definition of a dragon? That's the problem. You see that for the one it is a lizard, for the next one it is a serpent with wings, for the third one it is a strange animal, exotic animal, and everybody says, oh, it must be a dragon. He did not say, at least I don't know it, that he was spitting fire. Then I would say, okay, we are much closer to the dragon then. But no, I have only a depiction of a dragon in China. That's it. And that's, you see that everybody can come up with everything. You see, they control the press. I can't judge who's right and who's wrong. I can only interpret the Bible. That's the only thing that I got, which I heavily rely on. And of course my God-given common sense. But my common sense tells me that we shall draw the line from the dragon as a spiritual animal and the serpent on the other hand, because that's what God also does. Yeah, so the serpent deceived Eve, not the dragon. That means that at least Eve and Adam have seen the serpent with their own eyes. And God spoke to the serpent, so we can assume that it was not a spiritual animal, but a real existing animal. In Revelation, the dragon never speaks. In Revelation, there is no discussion between Michael and the dragon. They are just fighting. And you can think they're fighting a spiritual war, but the Bible does not go into it explicitly.
Doesn't the book of Revelation define the dragon as old, that old serpent?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, it's a serpent. It's the dragon. There's so many different forms.
Maybe, just maybe, that's a thought which comes into my mind at this moment. Maybe it also means that this is a high spiritual being which can
possess.
Huh?
Possess the spirit of.
Yeah, not only, but he can.
Not only.
He can display himself in different forms.
When I was young, I liked the lizard, the chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a pet chameleon when I was really young.
Yeah.
And I thought they were so cool because they could change their color, right?
Yes, see? I don't think that anybody on this earth can solve that problem. Only God can tell you what it is about. But I think that we should concentrate on Revelation 13, the beast of the sea. And when I see then that Leviathan is being depicted here in the book of Job, 41, canst thou draw the Leviathan with a hook? Yeah, so that is clearly stated that Leviathan is coming out of the water. And in Isaiah 41 we learn that it's a crooked serpent, the pierced serpent. So let's, I think, say that the equivalent or the best explanation of a sea beast of Revelation 13 would be like Leviathan, like a sea beast. Of course, everything has been created by God, even Satan. Yeah, so created being, which is much more powerful than everything else on this entire earth. And this Leviathan has been named as the crooked and pierced serpent coming out of the sea, that he can even boil the sea, and he has been smoke coming out of his nostrils and fire out of his breath. That's the closest that I can get.
Yeah, like a seething pot. That's right.
But I can't imagine that Leviathan is only a mythical animal, because mythical animals usually cannot boil water. And when it is only a mythical animal, I don't see the point that God draws a comparison for Job to understand. So he must assume that God must assume that Job exactly knows what God is talking about. It's not easy. But it's interesting, I think, to see it from that perspective. You see, that if they have if they can make things appear in spiritual exercises and meditations and all forms of, let's put it this way, devil worship, then these people who are doing these practices, they believe that is real, because this is what appears in front of their eyes, and they believe what they see before their eyes. They don't believe necessarily the truth, but they believe everything which happens in front of their eyes. And what is that other than a vision that Athanasius Kircher had while contemplating that he saw a living dragon? What is that other than a vision that people usually have if they sit in front of their television and see things that are not real, but they believe it because they see it with their own eyes? And so that is my point, Brett, you see. They can make everything appear so that the majority of people believe. They can make you believe that there is a fiery dragon somewhere around in what else in China. They control the press. They can put out everything. And the majority of people will still believe it because they have seen it with their own eyes. Therefore, I think the television is much, 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 much underestimated in terms of biblical visions, because this is the vision that the other side is just putting in front of the people that they should believe. They should believe a lie. You see, the Bible speaks of God shall send them a strong delusion that they shall believe a lie. The image of the beast, you see that it's not just a far-fetched or a stretch of the imagination to maybe also take into consideration that it is something which appears on your television, because the entire world can see it at the same
that
time.
They all should believe a lie. And how did the scripture go from there? They should all believe a lie that they might be damned, who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Pleasure in unrighteousness.
These are.
What do we see? Pleasure in unrighteousness, surrounded all over the place.
Yeah, the children of pride. So all these
Babylon is described as is quite simply as a place of luxury and wickedness.
Mm-hmm.
You see it everywhere.
So all these depictions around the world, you see common grounds. You see that could also be a dinosaur, but who tells you that they are authentic? And who tells you? You see, that is your imagination. Somebody explains, oh yeah, that has been a dinosaur. That is that. Then you intend to believe the first explanation you see, but maybe it has just another context. So I don't give a about it. Yeah, I only focus on the Bible, you see, and the Bible speaks of dragons and serpents, and they speak of a sea beast, and they speak of a leviathan in the sea. So we stuck to the sea beast, and then we see the spiritual connection to the dragon when the Bible speaks of, I think it was in Job, the last sentence, the children of pride. Yeah, the king of the children of pride. You can also say the children of disobedience. But it was pride why Satan fell. It was pride. He wanted to be like the Most High. And yeah, sure, you see that maybe they put you all on the wrong path with genetic manipulation of DNA. I think that will also come. But I don't think that
it already has happened.
I don't think that it is happening after. I think that it will be so huge that everything is happening at the same time.
Yeah. We're not there yet. We're getting
only God
close,
knows.
So.
But you see here in look Lamentations 4:3.
Okay, even the sea monster draw out the beast.
No, the breast.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'll start over. Lamentation 4:3. Even the sea monsters draw out the breast, they glue suck to their young ones. Oh, they give. I'm sorry. They give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people is become cruel like the ostriches in the wilderness.
Okay.
The tongue of the suckling child. Yes.
Yeah, the problem is here, this is limitation, so we do not know what that an allegory for is. But you see, even the Bible speaks on different occasions of sea monsters. So you can usually say that a monster is something which is abnormal, which is not normality, which is not, oh yeah, there's a dolphin, there's a whale, it means abnormal in size or appearance, maybe two heads, maybe longer than other, maybe deformed, maybe a hybrid, I don't know. But monster means monster. It does not mean after their kind. It means monster. Yeah. You see, when you compare that to Genesis 6, which we already done, when you talked about the giants, the flood came, it was a flood to wash away the sin of the earth, of the flesh, of all the flesh who has been corrupted. But you can't wash away the spiritual sin with a flood or with any earthly appearance. You can't kill evil spirits. Can't bomb them off. Can't shoot them. It's not possible. So therefore, all your protection symbols and all is totally futile. It's only just the Bible and only the only begotten Son of God who can get rid of all this in the end. But we have to deal what the Bible says, not with flesh and blood, but with principalities, with powers, with the prince of the power of the air, with spiritual wickedness, in high places. This is real. This is a nitty-gritty. This is the Wales, Yeah, and don't come up with apocryphica. You see that? I don't want to make it much more complicated than it actually is. I don't believe in the Book of Enoch for many reasons. So you see that you will never get it done, and you will never find out the truth. You will never find out the truth if you mix the truth with the lie.
Listen to this. I have the 1937 dictionary, 10-volume set with historical references in it, and it defines monster as a malformed animal or plant, a mishappen birth and abortion. And an imaginary animal, either partly brute and partly human, or compounded of elements from two or more animal forms. The centaur, the sphinx, monitor, etc.
You can also think of these monuments of the Sphinx of Gizeh, for example, that maybe they have tried to mix it up.
And then it says the last thing, a person of inhuman cruelty or wickedness, a monstrous example. Yes.
That's their attitude and their character.
A monstrous example. And then it lists 1556. Okay.
Yes. So this is all the stuff you see.
And then, of course, the last one, Michael, I'll finish. An animal of huge size, hence anything of vast proportions, 1530.
You see, even many people think that the giants mixed there, and they were also monsters because they were not completely divine, or they were not completely spiritual, they were not completely human or man-like, so they were monsters, the giants. And I got even one better example. You see, it has monster in its name. It's Godzilla, who came out of the sea. Apparently.
Yes.
And of course, this is just fiction, but the story goes that it was an atomic blast in the deep sea which awakened Godzilla. And he went out to, you see that here in the very first pictures here.
From the depths of the sea.
From the depths of the sea, the narrator tells you, right from the start. From the depths of the sea.
Wave of terror.
A wave of terror, and this is Godzilla.
King of the...
And he has a little bit of a fiery dragon in it, huh?
Right.
Yeah, sure. You see, the Bible does differ. But it's not that quite easy. They have also a land monster called Behemoth. He eats grass like an ox. So there was also a giant sea monster. The Bible tells about it, so come on. It's Ezekiel 29.
Speak and say, thus saith the Lord God. I think we read this before, no?
No.
Behold, I am against you, O Pharaoh, king of Egypt, O great monster who lies in the midst of his rivers,
Where are you? No. You do not use that text here. Do use the King James version, please.
Okay.
And then you will see.
Speak and say, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers, which hath said, my river is mine own, and I have made it for myself.
It's interesting, huh? That the river is mine own. I've made it for myself. In Revelation 12, it is the dragon which is just pursuing the woman who tried to give birth, and he wants to swallow her with water. Huh? Interesting. And much more interesting is that depending on your translation of the Bible, once it is translated as being a dragon, the King James Bible, and other Bibles, I do not know the origin of that Bible interpretation here, it's been a monster. Oh, it's
Wow, the dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers. I think of the Pope Paul VI audience hall, which appears like it's part of, if you were to draw a line from what's the name of the river there, right there by the Vatican? I forget the name.
Tiber, is it Tiber?
Yeah, the Tiber.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So if you kind of draw a line from the snaky river, and it goes right, like if the river went underground and came back up, the snake head is coming right out of the ground right there.
Mhm.
Something else.
Yeah. Yeah, so they can make you everything believe, from a fish market in Wuhan to science, so-called. Yeah, they can create anything. Yeah, of course, they have to pretend to the people that they are God-like. Yeah, so I do not know if that is fiction or fact here. Can't tell you. Is this an embryo of a lizard? I don't know. You see, they can sell you everything via the television. Everything. Can be a fake. I don't know. They use CRISPR technology to gene splice these animals. Yeah, so the only thing that we can agree on, I think, is that these so-called scientists will do everything in their power to be successful and to have a name, to make themselves a name, to have pride, to have power, to have possession. 30 coins of silver, anybody? Golden calf. Yeah, splicing of two animals' genes together to create a hybrid. And so we are very close to Genesis 6. And what did Jesus tells us or promised us? He said it would be in the days of Noah. The only difference to the former giant sessions of Science is the New Religion is now that we are talking about dragons, animals, serpents, sea beasts. But this is a common theme around the earth here. The woman and the beast, or the woman and dragons. Ask any Chinese. So no wonder that they are just using China. Why? It is a communist country. They can control much more than here. So I think that they are just more pushing there the agenda than here at this moment. No wonder they came up with this hilarious idea in 2019. So this can be fiction, but I think that they are just want to do it, because I have read that book of Kerry Mullis and he said, yeah, DNA, the big one.
Wait a second, Michael. You mean as if we were talking earlier about the Leviathan, or I forget, was it in the book of Job, where the sorrow is turned into the joy right before him?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And 2019, your reference, many people died. There are people I know that lost their parents even.
Mm-hmm.
It's very serious.
But
very serious.
They can come up with everything. They will tell you that happened at the market, that happened at the laboratory. Trump is the cause of all the stuff, and people will fall for it because they don't have any other source of information.
You mean, what was it called again? No, Operation Light Warp Speed, or what was it? Warp Speed?
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so.
What I will try to put it this way, that the dragon is the most prominent animal in the so-called People's Republic in China. So I would not wonder myself if they will create some apparitions there, maybe. Yeah, so for example, Japan is not quite far away from China, and Godzilla is just another form of a Leviathan, in my humble opinion. Yeah, so I do not know if that all will turn out the way that they planned it. I don't know. You see that the enemy, don't underestimate your enemy. You have to know your adversary. I don't know if it will be this way or any other way. But Jesus said it will be in the days of Noah, so that means that all flesh is corrupt, or most of the flesh will be corrupted. So they can cross anything, and maybe then they have some hybrids, and then you got your monster, literally, if you got a hybrid between two kind of animals. A little bit of snippet here, a little bit of snippet there. Yeah? But you see that apart from rooster, pig, rat and all the stuff, there is a dragon in China. And 2024 is the year of the dragon.
Okay, Michael, I just sent you the depiction. Good.
See here in China, 2024 is the year of the dragon. That would quite be fitting for other things that I'm just preparing at this moment for this series. 2025 would be not much better because it's the year of the snake.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah, but you see that the only, in the Chinese zodiac, the dragon is the only animal which is not existing at this very moment.
2026 is the year of the horse. Mm-hmm. And then after that, 2027 is the year of the sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Ay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in 2028, monkey see, monkey do. Yeah, but I'm not familiar with the Chinese zodiac so much, other than I know that it's the only animal which is not existing at this very moment, the dragon. So 2024 is the year of the dragon. And you have to take into consideration that they have another new year than we have. So, from memory, now we got the 17th of March. I think the new year started around the beginning of February. So it's a little bit different to us.
Go ahead, Michael.
So you see, there are no such coincidences. Also, when Kennedy was greeting Mr. Clinton here and all the stuff, there are no coincidences. Yeah. The worst thing that you can do in life is underestimate your adversary, says Clinton in 1999, March, not the 13th, but the 31st, which is numerically exactly the same. And Satan means the adversary. Yeah, so don't underestimate Satan, is what he actually says. And the point why I don't believe in that Amerigo Vespucci, I will show you now. This is just 2 or 3 minutes. Americo is more easily Latinized than Vespucci. America means the Western Hemisphere, North and South America, and cartographer Martin Waldseemüller's treatise Cosmographiae Introductio for Modern Latin Americanus, traditionally after Amerigo Vespucci, who lived 1454-1512, who made 2 trips to the New World as a navigator and claimed to have discovered it. Oh, another one. Wonder why they have sent Columbus then, huh? He published forward the idea that it was a new continent, and he was first to call it Novus Mundus, the New World. Amerigo is more easily Latinized than Vespucci, Latin Vespucius, and the sense in English naturally was restricted towards the British colonies. Look at this now. You see that my belief is that Amerigo is derived of this plumed feathered serpent of the native people of America. Because I think that name is much more older than Amerigo Vespucci. And I have another big argument in the case of this. Somebody says, I can show you a large feathered serpent that makes up the landscape in the eastern US from Missouri to Arkansas, and its head, plumage, body, wings, and tail that ends in the New England area. This would be very interesting to go into this. I have not done this before. But just a close look at only Wikipedia of Amerigo Vespucci, an Italian explorer, a navigator from the Republic of Florence, where the name or the term America is derived. He participated in 2 voyages between 1497 and 1504. Remember, Columbus was 1492 and sailed the ocean blue. The evidence for Vespucci's voyages of exploration consists almost entirely of a handful of letters written by him or attributed to him. So, Historians have differed sharply on the authorship, accuracy, and veracity of these documents. Consequently, opinions are very widely regarding the number of voyages undertaken, their routes, etc., etc. alleged voyage. You see that it's much disputed here, but the thing is, you only need to write this small sentence. You only have to read that small sentence here. Mundus Novus, so the New World, 1503, was a letter written to Vespucci's former schoolmate and one-time patron, Lorenzo di Pier Francesco de' Medici. Any questions? Medici is related to the papacy. So when it was a schoolmate and one-time patron and he told him about the New World in 1503, that is 5 years after Columbus, Medici family is an Italian elite family of bankers, alchemists and popes, head of the Catholic Church from Florence. So they are located in Florence. The medical profession with the snake symbol was named after them. Cosimo and Lorenzo de' Medici played a pivotal role in creating the modern financial system. Coat of arms contains fleur-de-lis symbol. They worked with Leonardo da Vinci. Their son Lorenzo de' Medici ruled Florence, 1516. Machiavelli dedicated the prince to him. The Medicis controlled the papacy through Leo X, Clement VII, and Sixtus IV. These are all Medici. Giovanni de' Medici, Giulio de' Medici. And Giovanni de' Medici, Leo X, excommunicated Protestant leader Martin Luther. And this was a schoolmate and friend that Amerigo Vespucci wrote a letter in 1503. Sure. It's always the case. It's just what do you believe in the end. So that's it. So the next time we will be focusing quite a little bit nearby, because next time I think it will be of the land of the plumed serpent. Because that is what your name or your continent, America, actually means. The plumed feathered serpent, a name given by the native people of Peru, because the official explanation, like in the case of Tierra del Fuego, or Cape Horn, or the Drake Strait, is, in my humble opinion, totally BS. It is not about Amerigo Vespucci. It is about Americo. And that is the literal explanation of the plumed feathered serpent. And feather can also mean wings. Sure, because some wings are being made out of a bunch of feathers. And then the entire problem begins once again. In his book New World Order, The Ancient Plan of Secret Societies, William T. Still shows that America was called initially the land of the plumed or feathered serpents by the Indians of Peru. James Peirce researched an article written in the Theosophical Society magazine entitled Lucifer, which gave insight to the word America. He says that the chief god of the Mayan Indians in Central America, speaking of Mexico, was Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan, the plumed serpent or feathered serpent. In Peru, this god was called Amaru, and a territory known as Amaruca. And now it's up to you if you believe the official Wikipedia explanation that it was Amerigo Vespucci who also discovered America after Christopher Columbus has discovered America and after Leif the Lucky has discovered America. Sure, it's like in the same it's the same thing as with the Drake Strait or the Street of the Dragon. Yeah, so no wonder if we step back to that interesting picture. What you see here is simply the Antarctica and South America. But it's no wonder that Peru, which is quite in the north of Chile here, then says, oh, we are the land of the plumed feathered serpent. And I think it's quite obvious why they came up with that idea. Because of their pagan gods. And where this idea of their pagan gods being depicted as plumed feathered serpents came from, I think we should talk about in the next session. What about you, Brett?
Sounds good.
So, shall we close it off for today?
Yes.
Okay, so thanks for having me and handing it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, this is a topic that we could actually go on a lot longer with, I think. And we will continue in the next sessions along these lines. So, yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And we hope to see you next time. God bless and bye bye for now.